Hello folks, welcome back to Marvellous Videos, where today we're going to explore horror movies. The movies we're looking into in this video have all managed to give their audiences a good scare within a tight budget. Most critics define low-budget movies as any movie shot with a budget of below $5 million. So that's the criteria we'll follow today. Without much further ado, let's begin adding on to your horror binge list. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. No! Hellraiser. Clive Barker began his illustrious directing career with his 1987 debut, Hellraiser. Based on his novella, The Hellbound Heart, Barker chose to direct the film himself after being disappointed with earlier adaptations of his work. Hellraiser begins with Frank Cotton purchasing a mysterious puzzle box that promises otherworldly pleasures to anyone who solves it. When he does, hooked chains appear out of thin air and tear him apart. A figure dressed in black resets the puzzle box, and the room returns to normal. Larry Cotton, Frank's brother, moves into Frank's house with his wife Julia and daughter Kirsty. While moving in, Larry injures his hand, and a drop of blood falls to the floor where Frank died, partially resurrecting him. Frank approaches Julia, with whom he had an affair while alive, and convinces her to help restore his body so they can run away together. Julia lures men into the house and kills them, allowing Frank to consume their life force. Kirsty, who witnesses Julia and Frank killing the men, escapes with the puzzle box. When she solves it, the Cenobites appear. These extra-dimensional beings cannot distinguish between pain and pleasure. Their leader, later named Pinhead by fans, demands that Kirsty return with them to their dimension. She strikes a deal. They will spare her if she gets Frank to confess that he escaped their clutches. Back at the house, Frank has killed Larry and is wearing his skin. When Kirsty confronts him, Frank confesses but accidentally kills Julia in the process, draining her life force. Before he can attack Kirsty, the Cenobites appear and tear him to pieces. However, they go back on their word and attempt to take Kirsty as well. She manages to reset the puzzle box, banishing the Cenobites back to their realm. Kirsty then throws the puzzle box into a burning pyre, but a skeletal creature retrieves it and flies away. The movie ends with the puzzle box being sold to new prospective buyers. The movie's budget was a modest $1 million, leaving no money for professional special effects at the film's conclusion. Barker animated these effects himself with a Greek guy he declined to name, fueled by an alcohol-filled weekend. Today, Hellraiser boasts a massive fan following, and Pinhead is instantly recognizable even to those who avoid horror films. Go show some love to this horrific masterpiece. Evil Dead. Sam Raimi's 1981 horror film Evil Dead had a budget of $375,000. The movie has since attained cult classic status, complete with a media franchise, and is even favored by horror maestro Stephen King. The plot revolves around Ash Williams, a university student who decides to go on vacation in an isolated cabin in Tennessee with his girlfriend Linda and sister Cheryl. They're joined by their friend Scott and his girlfriend Shelley. Cheryl is the first to experience supernatural occurrences when she hears a voice whisper, "Join us." In the cabin, they find a tape recorder containing a recording of incantations and a book titled Naturam de Manto, which roughly translates to the Book of the Dead. Unbeknownst to them, the recording resurrects a demonic entity in the woods. While Cheryl is exploring the area, she's attacked by haunted trees and vines. Horrified, Cheryl decides to leave, and Ash agrees to take her home, but they discover that the bridge is destroyed, leaving them all trapped at the cabin. Ash finds another tape recorder, left behind by archaeologist Raymond Noby. His recordings reveal that the only way to defeat a demonic entity is by dismembering its host. Soon, Cheryl's eyes turn white as she becomes possessed by a demonic entity called a Deadite. The Deadite demands to know why its slumber was disturbed and attacks Linda and Ash. Scott pushes Cheryl into the cellar and locks her inside. Another demon crashes through the window and possesses Shelley. Ash and Scott dismember her and burn her remains. Scott tries to escape through the woods, but is mortally wounded by the haunted trees. Meanwhile, Cheryl escapes from the cellar and Linda becomes possessed. Ash beheads Linda, but is soon attacked by Cheryl. He shoots Cheryl in the jaw, but Scott's corpse, now possessed by a Deadite, also attacks him. Scott and Cheryl, both Deadites, join forces against Ash, but he manages to throw the Book of the Dead into the fireplace. As the book burns, the Deadites decompose. With the arrival of dawn, Ash steps out of the cabin, only to be attacked by a rushing demon. The movie ends with his chilling scream. The film made many adjustments to fit its tight budget. For the effect of demon eyes, actors had to wear thick lenses that took 10 minutes to apply and had to be removed every 15 minutes because they didn't allow the eyes to breathe. The crew built their own rigs to operate cameras as they couldn't afford professional camera dollies. Another fun fact that adds to the charm of the film is that live ammunition was used for some scenes, while in others, the actors mimed the gunfire. Basket Case. Frank Henenlotter's 1982 film Basket Case is a cult classic in the horror genre. The movie opens ominously, with a shadowy figure brutally murdering Dr. Julius Lifflander in New York. The scene then shifts to Dwayne Bradley, a young man arriving in the city with a mysterious wicker basket and a wad of cash to secure a hotel room. The contents of the basket are soon revealed to be Dwayne's deformed twin brother, Belial, who communicates telepathically with Dwayne and relies on him for sustenance. Dwayne visits Dr. Harold Needleman and is smitten with his secretary, Sharon. That night, however, Dwayne returns to the doctor's office with Belial. When the basket is opened, Belial savagely kills Dr. Needleman. The next day, Dwayne spends time with Sharon, visiting the Statue of Liberty and sharing a kiss. The romantic moment enrages Belial, who discovers it through their telepathic bond, and he vents his fury by trashing the hotel room. Meanwhile, Brian O'Donovan, a thief who had noticed Dwayne's cash, attempts to break into the room, but meets a grisly end at Belial's hands. Through a flashback, the brothers' tragic backstory unfolds. They were once conjoined twins, separated in a cruel surgical operation performed by Dr. Needleman, Dr. Lifflander, and Dr. Judith Cutter. Belial resented the separation, while Dwayne despised the mistreatment his brother endured. Their revenge began with the murder of their father, who had insisted on the operation. The authorities dismissed the death as an accident, allowing the brothers to continue their vendetta. The twins complete their quest for revenge by killing Dr. Cutter. However, Belial's jealousy spirals out of control when Dwayne becomes romantically involved with Sharon. Belial tracks her down and murders her, leading to a climactic confrontation between the brothers. Their fight culminates in both plummeting from the hotel window to their deaths. Basket Case was made on a shoestring budget, starting with just $16,000, much of which came from Henenlotter's life savings. The crew filmed scenes as funds became available, using the footage to attract additional investors. They even scavenged dumpsters for props and furniture. By the end of the production, the total budget was estimated at around $35,000. Terror Vision. Ted Nicolau's 1986 sci-fi horror comedy Terror Vision has earned a cult following for being delightfully bad, a staple of the so bad it's good genre. The story follows the eccentric Putterman family, whose satellite TV inadvertently receives energy beams from the alien planet Pluton. These beams carry a mutant creature known as the Hungry Beast, the result of a garbage disposal mishap. The mutant materializes from the television and quickly consumes the family's grandfather, much to young Sherman Putterman's horror. Sherman tries to warn his parents, but they dismiss his concerns, and the police accuse him of prank calling. Meanwhile, the Hungry Beast devours Sherman's parents as well. When his sister Susie and her boyfriend OD arrive, Sherman recounts the horrifying events. The trio discovers imitations of their parents and grandfather created by the beast. Surprisingly, they manage to tame it with food and hatch a plan to profit from their discovery by calling Medusa, a TV horror host. Despite initial skepticism, Medusa agrees to meet them. Meanwhile, Pluthar, the alien tasked with containing the beast, appears on TV, warning humanity to destroy their televisions to avoid catastrophe. The beast, terrified of Pluthar, devours OD and later the police, who arrive to arrest Sherman. Pluthar transports himself to Earth via an energy beam in a bid to capture the creature. However, Medusa mistakes Pluthar for the beast and kills him, inadvertently leaving the real Hungry Beast to feast on all three of them. The next day, Medusa's chauffeur finds an eerie impression of her in his car, demanding to be driven to the TV station. With a surprising budget of $1 million, Terror Vision leaves viewers questioning how the money was spent. The production's hilariously low-quality aesthetics and campy execution have endeared it to fans of cheesy, over-the-top cinema. Reanimator. Reanimator, as the name suggests, is about Herbert West, a medical student obsessed with bringing the dead back to life. He invents a reagent that can reanimate dead tissue. Herbert demonstrates the reagent's effectiveness to his classmate Dan Kane by using it on Dan's dead cat. The cat comes back to life, but becomes extremely violent, forcing Dan to kill it again. Herbert and Dan discuss the invention with their dean, Dr. Halsey. However, the dean assumes they've lost their minds and expels them from medical school. Desperate to prove their discovery, they head to the graveyard to reanimate a corpse. The dean stumbles in just as the corpse is coming back to life. In its frenzy, the reanimated corpse kills the dean. Herbert kills the corpse and injects the reagent into the dean, who is resurrected in a zombie-like state. Megan Halsey, Dan's fiancée and the dean's daughter, arrives at the scene, horrified. Dan faints from the shock. Dr. Carl Hill, a colleague of Dr. Halsey, performs a lobotomy on the dean and realizes he has been resurrected. He confronts Herbert, who explains the reagent. Dr. Hill tries to steal the reagent and claim credit for its invention, but Herbert decapitates him. Using the reagent, Herbert reanimates Hill's severed head, but Hill's body sneaks up on Herbert and knocks him unconscious. Hill takes the reagent and his severed head back to his lab. Dr. Hill discovers a way to control other reanimated corpses through brain surgery. He commands Dr. Halsey to kidnap Megan, after which Hill sexually assaults her. Dan and Herbert arrive to rescue her, but Hill's reanimated corpses attack them. Megan's screams awaken Dr. Halsey from Hill's control, and he fights off the other corpses. To escape, Herbert injects a lethal dose of the reagent into Hill's body, causing it to mutate rapidly. The mutated Hill grabs Herbert as Dan and Megan attempt to flee. A corpse strangles Megan, and Dan, desperate to save her, injects her with the reagent. The movie ends with Megan screaming as she comes back to life. Reanimator was released in 1985 with an estimated budget of $900,000. Directed by Stuart Gordon, the plot is inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's novelette Herbert West Reanimator, published in 1922. While it received mixed reviews upon its release, the uncut version, later released on home video, garnered a significant cult following. Mystics in Bali. Mystics in Bali is a 1981 Indonesian horror film directed by Cut Jalil. Based on Putra Mada's novel Liak Nakak, the movie stars Ilona Agatha Bastian as Kathy Keene, an anthropologist studying black magic in Bali. Her lover, Mahendra, tells her about the most powerful form of black magic, Liak. Together they meet the queen of the Liak cult. The queen warns Kathy that she will appear in different forms each time they meet. The following night, the queen appears as a prehensile tongue and carves a spell onto Kathy's upper thigh. She instructs Kathy to meet her alone the next evening. At their next meeting in a graveyard, Kathy and the queen dance maniacally, transform into pigs, and communicate telepathically. Kathy envisions destroying a wall of fire. Meanwhile, Mahendra learns counterspells against Liak magic from his uncle, Machesi. Later, Kathy recounts her experience to Mahendra, who explains that destroying a wall of fire means she killed someone. Unbothered, Kathy tells him she feels unwell, but insists the queen will cure her that night. Later that night, Kathy's head and internal organs detach from her body as she flies to a pregnant woman, devouring her unborn child. Villagers who witness this inform Machesi. The next night, when Kathy's head detaches again, they bury her body to prevent it from reattaching. They then confront and kill the queen. Mystics in Bali is one of Indonesia's most successful horror films and is a must-watch for fans of the bizarre and supernatural. Slime City. Another treat for fans of sci-fi horror, Slime City follows Alex, an art student in New York City who moves into a rundown apartment. The apartment's owner, Lizzie, seems sweet and friendly. Alex's new neighbors, Roman and Nicole, offer him a strange liquid, claiming it to be white wine. Without thinking twice, Alex drinks it. The next morning, he begins transforming into a slime creature with thick liquid oozing from his forehead. Seeking relief, he goes out to get tea, but accidentally kills a homeless man. Following the murder, Alex returns to normal. Despite the strange events, Alex drinks the elixir again when his neighbors offer it, only to ooze slime once more. He reverts to normal again after killing a sex worker. When he confronts Roman and Nicole, they reveal that the white wine is actually an elixir preparing his body for the return of Zachary, Lizzie's father. Roman and Nicole are members of Zachary's cult. Alex vows never to drink the elixir again but it's too late. That night, Zachary takes over Alex's body, but Alex's girlfriend, Lori, hacks him apart and escapes. With a modest budget of $100,000, Slime City was written and directed by Greg Lamberson. Though this 1988 film is less well-known compared to others, its inventive plot and mix of sci-fi elements make it worth checking out. Blood Diner. Blood Diner tells the story of two brothers, Michael and George Tutman, who run a vegetarian restaurant. Their uncle, Anwar Namtut, a serial killer, brainwashes them into joining the cult of Sheetar, whose sole mission is to resurrect the goddess Sheetar. The brothers first resurrect their uncle's brain and place it in a jar. The brain commands them to prepare a blood buffet by collecting body parts from immoral women and sex workers for Sheetar. The brothers begin targeting women who visit their restaurant. Soon, two cops grow suspicious of the string of disappearances connected to the restaurant. Viewers will be caught up in this hilarious tale as the brothers struggle not to mess up their one chance at resurrecting Sheetar. Blood Diner is a parody and homage to Blood Feast, the 1963 splatter film. This 1987 movie, directed by Jackie Kong, was shot in just 3 weeks on a small budget of $330,000. Evil Dead Trap. Evil Dead Trap was released in Japan under the title Shiro na Wana, which translates to Trap of the Dead Spirits. This 1988 supernatural slasher film follows Nami, the host of a TV show called Late Night with Nami. As part of her show, Nami invites viewers to send in home videos. One of the tapes she receives depicts the disturbing and brutal murder of a woman. Recognizing the setting in the video as an abandoned military base, Nami decides to investigate with her crew. At the base, Nami meets Daisuke, who is searching for his missing brother, Hideki. Nami and her crew split up to look for clues, but one by one, the crew members are brutally killed. After discovering that everyone else has been murdered, Nami flees in terror, but later returns, determined to confront the killer. She finds Daisuke talking to himself while disposing of the bodies and assumes he is the murderer. As she points her gun at him, Daisuke's chest bursts open, revealing his mutant brother, Hideki, who attacks Nami. Daisuke forces Hideki back into his chest and sets himself on fire, but Hideki survives and takes control of Daisuke's body to continue the attack. Nami stabs them, and their bodies fall out of a window. The movie fast-forwards to a time after Nami has healed from her wounds. She experiences a supernatural labor and gives birth to Hideki, who had transferred himself into her during their fight. Directed by Toshiharu Ikeda, Evil Dead Trap was made with an estimated budget of $500,000. J-horror fans will appreciate the special effects Shinichi Wakasa, known for his work on Godzilla. The Stuff. Quarry workers in Georgia discover a mysterious white substance that tastes delicious. They start marketing it in ice cream tubs as the Stuff, and it quickly becomes wildly popular. A young boy named Jason notices the stuff moving on its own and tries to warn others, but no one takes him seriously. As the stuff gains popularity, ice cream sales decline. Concerned entrepreneurs from the ice cream industry hire David Mo Rutherford, an ex-FBI agent, to investigate. Rutherford discovers that the stuff is an alien organism that feeds on the brains of its consumers, turning them into zombies. Once the alien has consumed the host's brain, it bursts out of their body. Rutherford teams up with Jason to expose the truth, leading to widespread boycotts of the stuff. They confront Mr. Fletcher, the company's owner, who remains unrepentant. Fletcher reveals plans for a new product, the Taste, where the stuff is diluted with ice cream to avoid killing the host. Rutherford and Jason force Fletcher to eat the stuff, and the film ends with the stuff being sold on the black market. A satirical commentary on consumer culture, The Stuff was written and directed by Larry Cohen. Made with a budget of $1.7 million, this 1985 sci-fi horror film exceeds expectations and offers an entertaining watch. Class of Nukem High. Also known as Atomic High School, Class of Nukem High is set at Tromaville High School in New Jersey. Next to the school is a nuclear power plant that experiences a radioactive leak. The contaminated water flows into the school's drinking fountain, killing a student named Dewey and causing a radioactive marijuana plant to grow. The Honor Society, known as the Cretins, is affected by the radioactive water, turning them violent. Meanwhile, students Eddie, Chrissy, and her boyfriend Warren smoke marijuana from the radioactive plant. That night, Chrissy and Warren have strange dreams but wake up feeling normal. However, Chrissy coughs out a tiny creature, which she doesn't notice. The creature enters a nearby dump of radioactive waste, where it grows into a monstrous size. The nuclear plant workers investigate Dewey's death, but during the probe, the monster kills one of them. Warren, in a radioactive rage, fights the Cretins, but has no memory of it later. The Cretins hold Chrissy hostage, luring Warren into a trap. The monster witnesses the Cretins harming Chrissy and attacks them, killing them all. Warren and Chrissy escape as the school explodes and is shut down for remodeling. The film ends with a tiny creature crawling out of the school's rubble. Directed by Richard W. Haynes and Lloyd Kaufman, this 1986 movie had a reported budget of $400,000. Its production value and creative execution defy the constraints of a low-budget film, delivering an impressive and entertaining experience. Critters. This 1986 comedy horror film spawned an entire franchise. Shot on a $3 million budget, Critters marks Stephen Herrick's directorial debut. The story revolves around the Krites, a race of criminal aliens who escape captivity and land on Earth. Two shape-shifting bounty hunters, Lee and Ugg, are sent to recapture them. Ugg takes on the form of a rock star, Johnny Steele, as a disguise. The Krites crash land near the Kansas farm of Jay and Helen Brown. Investigating the crash, Jay and his son Brad find a half-eaten cow and rush back home. The Krites attack a police officer and later target Jay, though he manages to escape. The Browns hide in their house as the Krites steal their vehicles. The aliens kidnap April, Jay's daughter, and kill her boyfriend, Steve. Brad escapes and encounters the bounty hunters, leading them back to the farm. Charlie McFadden, a mechanic and alien enthusiast, joins the group. He rescues April while Brad and the bounty hunters fight the Krites. Before the Krites can escape in their spaceship, Charlie throws a Molotov cocktail aboard, setting it aflame and killing them. Grateful, Lee and Ugg invite Charlie to join them as a bounty hunter. However, the final scene reveals Krite eggs in the chicken coop, ready to hatch. Marvellous verdict. These are just some of the low-budget horror films that every genre enthusiast should watch. We hope your next binge session is packed with thrills. Did we miss any of your favorite low-budget horror flicks? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.